As shown on the poster, I would argue that Sports Direct issues with worker conditions in their Shirebrook warehouse led to other issues such as having a poor reputation and also disappointing financial performance. To try and change this, Sports Direct could use Kotter's model to push through change regarding these employee issues. So first of all, Kotter argues that step one is to create a sense of urgency and communicate this. So the organisation clearly has an opportunity to improve its reputation in regards to its treatment of employees. All employees would have seen the recent media reports and would understand this need for change. This should be articulated to two different groups in different ways. In terms of the senior management, it should be perceived as an opportunity to redeem themselves and increase happiness from their shareholders. In terms of the employees in the warehouses, this should be an opportunity to improve their working life for them and their colleagues. This should be communicated formally and informally. For example, Mike Ashley should go into the warehouse and offices to talk about the change and the opportunity that each party has to improve. Line managers should then be encouraged to start conversations with employees about the proposed change. The second step by Kotter is building a guiding coalition. Originally, this process was used in order to build a team at the start to help the change. Although Sidorka in 2008 argued that there actually needs to be multiple teams built as the change progresses rather than just one at the start. So initially, a team of about 20 people could be put together from throughout the organisation, but then new coalitions could be started when needed to push forward specific parts of the change. It's important to pick influential people as part of the guiding coalition teams. In order to judge their influence, you could use Nielsen, New and Meng's 2016 approach, where from their study they argued that the people who received the most praise in the organisation from colleagues were the most influential to their peers. Step 3 involves forming a strategic vision and then initiatives to help people get to this kind of vision. So in terms of the vision for Sports Direct, their current vision is focused on delivering their strategy to offer an unrivaled range of high-quality leading brands to their customers and maximising their efficiency, capacity and effectiveness of their operations to deliver this experience. They should keep their customer focus, but add in a focus on working together with business stakeholders to achieve their goals. In particular, they should aim for their employees to be engaged and happy in their roles. And so there's certain initiatives that they can put in place in order to try and get to this ideal. So initially, an employee council should be put together. A number of people from the warehouses and stores should be elected to represent the different departments. Each month, these employees will meet with senior leaderships to express what is going on. The issues will then be discussed by the teams to try and find solutions. These solutions will then be taken back and discussed at each plant with feedback going to senior managers. A measurement of employee satisfaction to be integrated into executive pay. Therefore, if employee safety and satisfaction is not high, executives will not get high bonuses, which should encourage executives to act and implement schemes that allow for the improvement of employee satisfaction and engagement. So this is one of Hamill's moonshots for management. Sports Direct should move away from using the agencies for its employees. This could be a quick move looking to make around 75% of workers permanent in the warehouse and employed solely by Sports Direct. This means Sports Direct are then truly responsible for their workers. ASOS have had similar issues with the agency Transline, who Sports Direct also use, which is indicative for the issues that this type of system causes within an organisation. A secondment scheme could be set up with firms such as John Lewis, Google and Microsoft. Managers from in the warehouse and HR could swap with people of the same position at these other firms for 6 months. This would benefit Sports Direct as their managers would learn new skills in regards to employee engagement to bring back to Sports Direct, and Sports Direct would also get the expertise from the managers from the other firms during this 6-month exchange period. The other firms would benefit as their employees would have gained new experiences from working in a different environment at Sports Direct for 6 months. Kotter argues that step 4 is enlisting a volunteer army. So realistically, it should not be that difficult to get warehouse workers on board, although there seems to be a fear in the warehouse about speaking out. This firstly needs to be addressed. Senior leaders need to make themselves accessible, and they should give out their contact details to be contacted directly if there are any issues with the change. At this stage, multiple guiding coalitions could be put together to guide the changes. Each change initiative could have a team put together whose job it is to get people involved and taking part in the different schemes. Kotter argues that stage 5 is enable action by removing barriers. So there's a high amount of shareholder pressure on the firm, which can be seen from the recent Open Day and AGM. Profits may be lower while focusing on changing the employee conditions. Therefore, it's extremely important to speak with shareholders and communicate the plan for change so they understand what's going on within the organisation. Another barrier to change is that when Sports Direct previously promised to increase pay for their casual staff, it was ridiculed as a PR stunt. This may mean internally that people may not deem the change as serious. To combat this, Mike Ashley and other senior leaders need to make sure they are publicly involved in the process, which will help ease these fears. Kotter argues that step 6 is generating short-term wins, and there's a few ways that Sports Direct could do this. First of all, as the role of the agencies decrease and more people become employees of Sports Direct, this should be celebrated and broadcasted to employees. Also, the employee council meetings should initially actually be weekly, with an aim to implement changes on the issues by next week. These changes should be immediately communicated to employees to show that these issues are getting dealt with. And then also, when an employee goes on a secondment, it could be broadcasted within the warehouse on notice boards to show the progress of the scheme. So the next step is step 7. Usually at this stage, Kotter would recommend accelerating the change, but I argue it should be replaced by evaluate. As the external and internal environments often evolve throughout a change process, each step of the process should be examined before it takes place to make sure their goals are still relevant and that each step will help them achieve this goal. This would help stop pushing through change that is no longer relevant. And I believe this process should run throughout the process. So rather than just being step 7, it should run kind of throughout after each step to make sure they're still on track to achieve their goals. So finally, in terms of step 8, this has been adapted to focus on how sports directs can keep the knowledge of these practices within the organisation. So I would argue that there could be kind of 3 communities of practice set up. So one could firstly be set up for the members of the employee council group. This could be used to share knowledge on how they engage employees, how they represent them, and how they present these ideas to the senior people within the organisation. Sports Direct should provide the infrastructure such as a room and computer systems and any training they need in order to make this a success. Secondly, one could be set up for the returning exchange employees and the current employees from the partner companies who are working at Sports Direct. This would be used to exchange knowledge regarding how they're able to implement skills they learn at other organisations into Sports Direct. Thirdly, a community of practice could be set up for the very senior people within the business. This could be with senior members of organisations such as ASOS and Amazon who are also suffering similar issues, but then also including companies who are more successful at providing good employee conditions such as John Lewis, Google and Microsoft. The aim could be to exchange and build knowledge on providing a work environment that engages employees and to discuss their current approaches on doing so. However, there are some limitations to using Kotter's model. So the model as used by Kotter is aimed to push through change relatively quickly. However, Alverson argues these quick changes actually can fail to take into consideration the effect on the specific organisation. Although in my use of the model, I've aimed to make the process slower and more considered to the needs of Sports Direct. There also seems to be a lack of mention of any type of resistance. Using Ogbonna and Harris's work, there is likely to be resistance from managers in regards to the new employee satisfaction model being included into consideration for bonuses. Employees may just show face to it in order to not harm their career progression, but really they might not buy into it. Bamford and Forrester also argue that there is an assumption that the firm can just arrive at its strategic vision, although not taking into consideration changes to the external environment. However, I aim to combat this by integrating the external and internal analysis at each stage of the process.